The following will be an overview of Visual version 9.05. Included enhancements are scheduling by multiple sites, percent complete reporting, including a maximum percentage limit, a few enhancements for the manufacturing window, a couple small additions for order entry and shipping. The overview will end with tools and utilities. Let's look at multi-site scheduling. In this example, I have manually started 2 sites processing the scheduler at the same point in time. Additionally, automated schedules will also be able to process when multiple sites are being scheduled at the same point in time. However, in this next example, I'm running the scheduler for the same site, and here you'll notice that I do run into a conflict when I'm running inside of the same site. At this point, I will get this message telling me about the conflict. Next, we will cover percent complete reporting. Also notice that there is a video for Visual version 9.05 just for percent complete. To summarize the request, the functionality will focus on the calculation being set based on hours versus quantity. Additionally, there will be a maximum percentage completion added. With the addition of the maximum percentage of completion, we now have an opportunity to impact how scheduling will update the current operations. When calculated quantities meet or exceed the estimated quantity, the operations will stay open, leaving a remaining percentage to be scheduled. And finally, barcode labor reporting will be included. Let's review these enhancements a little deeper, starting with the percentage of completion display. Going into site maintenance, I will go over to the defaults tab, and on the left-hand side, you'll notice that there's now a flag for percent complete. I'll flag that. And let's go over and take a look at an example inside of labor ticket entry. Once I change the transaction type to run, you'll notice that the display is now going to show you percentages. I'm going to go in and put a labor ticket in for 4, and you'll notice that it sets the amount completed to 25% and the remaining down to 75%. That would be the display enhancement. In site maintenance, you'll notice that we have a control now for quantity completed by hours, which is essentially the same calculation for auto calculation used in our preference settings and also over here in administrative setup inside of labor ticket entry. In site maintenance, I'm now going to go into the maximum percent completed and put a maximum of 90% in the field. And let's watch what would happen now with 11 hours being added to this example. Notice that it stops at 65% for this current labor ticket. The 65 and the 25 total your new 90% maximum limit. I will save this current labor ticket, and you'll notice that on save, the remaining percentage will be reduced to 10%. Any additional labor hours can be added, but automatic POC stops here at the 90%. Any additional POC reporting can be done manually. Here's an example of my schedule, and you can still see that I have an hour and a half or a little bit more to be scheduled on that current operation. I'll drill down deeper just to show you some of the details of my example. So I had 16 hours, 10% left, which is the 1.6 or 96 minutes, and you can see that here in the details. Let's dig a little bit deeper and look at the POC settings and their hierarchy. We've already looked at site maintenance and we've seen the 3 settings. The other areas that we can look at will be work order and master headers, as well as operation overrides. Clicking on the header of a work order, you'll notice the 2 prime settings down below, and here is the setting for the maximum quantity. All 3 settings are grayed out because they are set at the site level. Let's look at an operation. If I drill into this one operation, go to the other tab, you notice that I have the 2 prime settings to the right, and to the left I have the max percentage complete. Here again, you'll notice that the settings are grayed out due to being set at the site level. Other labor reporting applications will be impacted by the change. Let's take a look at the barcode applications. Here's an example of the wedge barcode. You notice now that the percent completed label now appears. Also, here's an example of the BTS window. And you can see the percentage completed is also appearing at this point. And you can see the impact of auto reporting coming over here to labor ticket entry using this application. Now we can review a few enhancements that impact the manufacturing window. First, there was an enhancement request to add a potential PO supply orders to the material availability view inside the manufacturing window. This will display firm and release purchase orders that have active lines that are not fully received. Let's review this functionality a little deeper by covering the following example. Here you'll notice that I have the material view panel coming up for a selected part, and it already includes quantity on order. I can flip through and highlight other parts, and I can also get the quantity on order. With the new functionality, I can now see quantity on order for my entire work order. Now I can go through and compare that to the material availability window. And here you can see the new column for potential supply orders. The material availability window includes firmed and released purchase orders. The calculation is also impacted by the requirements warehouse planning policy. Further, any allocated POs or receipts will be reduced from the calculation. As part of my demonstration, I'm going to go into the alternate part information view, and here you'll notice that I'm looking at expected orders, and these include the purchase orders. And underneath the unallocated column, you can see the 91 that balances to my example. Next, I will show you the update hours dialog box enhancement. I'll go into the update hours dialog box in this example. In version 904, we were able to go through and do an update so that we could modify the new setup of the new runtime after we've done the calculation. When we were in there at that point in time, we noticed that the dialog box could be enhanced to stretch. We did that update here in version 905. Our third enhancement for the manufacturing window actually is using the import utility VMDL sync. Before I show you the import utility itself, let's go through and take a look at the text file that we put together. We've added here in this example the reference designator, and it will go against that one material requirement, and I've actually done it for a few material requirements. I'll go back now and do the import, and here inside of the manufacturing window I'll go take a look at that material requirement, go over to my reference designator tab, and here you can see the example from the import using the VMDL sync utility. Let's take a look at a couple small enhancements, one for order entry and the other for shipping. In order entry, we'll take a look at the prevent lot ID from being validated when the work order ID is null. The change will allow for multiple lot IDs to be entered for the same job ID. For this example, I've gone into version 904 and began entering a new customer order. Entering a quantity, then tabbing over to the job, and on the job ID I will leave that null. And now when I go in and enter a lot ID, trying to match the line, you'll notice that there's a validation taking place and it actually removes the lot ID. For this change, we have gone into the preference maintenance and added a preference, and you can see that we validate the job when null. The default is going to be yes. In this case here, we want to shut it off, so we will set it to N or no. Now back in order entry, I will go through again, insert a row, entering a quantity, tab over the job, entering the lot ID, and tabbing through will now keep the lot ID on the row. And then I'll actually go in and add in a second row, and you'll notice that the lot IDs are not being removed at this point in time. This will allow manual entry for the new job ID with multiple lots. A new notification token has been added for the waybill number. Starting a notification maintenance underneath the shipments tab, I'm going to go over and I can now go in and pull in the waybill token, add it to my notification message, put it into the header in this example. Moving over to shipping entry, I'm going to go into the other tab and enter in a waybill number. Ship the line. And on shipment, you'll notice that I do get an email notification, and in this instance, it will include the new waybill token. Our last section will cover the tools and utilities for version 905. Let's begin with the global country change utility, which is VMCHGCNT. This application will require a sysadmin login to start. The functionality behind this utility is to replace the freeform country codes with the ISO standard for ID and description. For my example, I'm entering in CAN to find any instance of where Canada may exist in my demo database, and I can either tab or hit the refresh button to get the details that come across. Once the freeform details are selected, I will go in and also select my ISO code and description. When saving, all of the tables with the country code ID will be updated at this point in time. I'm clearing the screen now and we'll do a search against the null country ID, which will bring up everything. Caution should be taken if you are running in this mode because of all the tables involved in the process. This utility also includes the option to send the data over to Microsoft Excel, and here's just an example of that export. The final feature for us to display for version 905 is a date range added to the BOD maintenance for part ID. Here's an example inside of BOD maintenance. I'm already at the part row, and I will press the filter button, and you'll notice now that there is a starting and ending date range. In here, the system will now look for parts that have only been modified within that date range when sending the BODs. Thank you for watching this video for Visual version 905.